Today I'm making a fun meal of salmon topped with crumbs made from potato chips and fresh dill. It is an absolute crowd pleaser. And to go with that, we're gonna have orzo that has a ton of mint and some cucumbers and feta. And then to top it all off, I'm gonna make a summer berry fool. And if you've never had a berry fool, you're missing out. You take fresh berries, you make a puree, you mix it with some whipped cream, and they're topped with these crumbs that are kind of like cookies, kind of like crackers. They add a salty crunch that is just out of this world. So to get started, we're gonna cook the orzo for the salad. In here I have 2 quarts of water come to a boil in a pot. We're gonna add some salt, a good amount of salt, 1.5 teaspoons. It's a 1/2 teaspoon measure. So 3 of those. All right. In goes the orzo. That's 1/2 pound of orzo. And now we're gonna cook this until it's al dente, and that takes anywhere from 8 minutes. Some brands take a little longer. You just want to keep stirring it so that orzo doesn't stick together. All right, so while that cooks, let's make a vinaigrette for the salad. Now I'm gonna make the vinaigrette right in the serving bowl, just saves me some dishes. I'm gonna start with 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. I like a good lemony orzo salad because I think that orzo, you know, it's pretty dense, and having a lot of lemon juice to zip it up is a good thing. We're gonna add some garlic. Now this is the rasp style grater, and I'm using just 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm just rubbing it right against the rasp grater. You can see all that nice puree catching on the backside. I love using these graters when I'm making a vinaigrette because it really purees the garlic to a nice paste that works itself nicely into the vinaigrette. Sometimes when you're using this kind of grater, you gotta take the tip of a knife and get all the puree out of the backside. All right, a little salt and pepper, about 1/2 teaspoon of each. Ding! 1/2 teaspoon salt. Ding! That's a good sound. Wish it meant dinner was ready, but not yet. All right, so there we go. Now I'm gonna whisk in about 5 tablespoons of olive oil. I make this so often, I feel like I don't really need to measure the oil much anymore. Okay, there we go. That's about 5 tablespoons. All right, I'm gonna set that aside. Now I'm gonna chop up the vegetables for the salad, starting with 1/2 of a red onion. All right, just gonna chop this nice and fine. There we go, 1/2 an onion, about 1/2 cup. Into the bowl it goes. All right, now time to add a little cucumber. You want 1/2 of an English cucumber. And I'm gonna leave the skin on because I like the color and I like the crunch, but I'm gonna take the seeds out because they tend to get a little mushy. So cutting it in half lengthwise, I'm just gonna use a spoon and just gently scrape out the seeds. All right, now we're just gonna slice it crosswise into nice thin slices. All right, into the vinaigrette they go. Make sure all the pieces are nicely separated. All right, moving on to some scallion. Now the recipe calls for about 1/4 cup of scallion, which depending on the size of your scallions is about 2. I love scallion though. It is my favorite thing to keep on hand. It zips up whatever you're cooking. So if I have a little extra scallion than 1/4 cup, that's why. All right, into the bowl it goes. All right, next up, some fresh mint, which is really unique for the salad. I think it tastes fabulous on hot days. Again, this is a room temperature salad, so it goes with a variety of things. But if you wanted to vary up the flavors, this is how you could do it. You could substitute all sorts of fresh herbs for the mint. You could use cilantro, parsley, obviously tarragon, dill, all would taste really lovely here. All right, so obviously I washed this mint already. I'm just pulling the leaves off. So just kind of eyeing what 1/2 cup would be after it's chopped. All right, now just running over it with my knife, making some nice big chops. All right, that looks pretty good. A couple big pieces over here. All right, into the bowl it goes. All right, so now I'm just crumbling about half a cup of feta right over the top. All right, that's it for this salad. All that's left is the orzo, which is probably done cooking. It looks good. The only way to tell if it's really done, of course, is to taste it. So here, I have asbestos hands. Perfect. Just a little al dente in the middle. Now time to drain. All right, so there is the cooked orzo. Now, a real trick if you're making orzo salad is you want to make sure the orzo cools very quickly so it doesn't get mushy. So what you would do, much like making a grain salad, is you spread it out on a baking sheet. This helps it cool really quickly and prevents it from overcooking because you can tell it's still hot, that pasta is still cooking. And to help prevent it from sticking together, we're just gonna add about a tablespoon of olive oil. Stir that around. Now all we have to do is let this orzo cool, which takes about 15 minutes before we can combine it with the rest of the salad.
At Cooks Illustrated, we're food nerds. That's why every recipe we develop involves research, cooking science, and rigorous testing by our team of expert test cooks. Only the highest rated recipes earn a place in our award-winning magazine. Every issue features our latest recipes and discoveries, cooking tips, and equipment and ingredient reviews. Our step-by-step photos and hand-drawn illustrations show you exactly how to succeed. So, are you ready to become the best cook you know? Subscribe to Cooks Illustrated magazine at cooksillustrated.com today.
All right, the orzo is good and cool. Time to marry it with the rest of its friends. We're just gonna slide it right off the baking sheet. It's not sticking to this sheet because of that oil, which is really helpful. I know it's kind of a small bowl for this. I have a habit of wanting to do everything in the serving bowl to save dishes, but it means it gets a little tight at mixing time, but I don't mind. Plus, anything that hits the floor, Ziggy, the dog, will be very happy about. Did you hear your name, Ziggy? Did you hear your name, buddy? Ziggy's a fan of the orzo. Come here, Ziggy. Yeah, you're welcome. Little treat. Little treat. All right, now just gonna gently toss the orzo with all of the ingredients in the bottom of the bowl. That's all that mint, the cucumbers, the red onion, that pureed garlic, all that lemon juice, and the feta. Oh, it smells delicious. As I said, I love this salad in the summertime. It holds like a dream. And it goes with absolutely everything from barbecued chicken to salmon with potato chips. So, all right, that looks pretty good. Just gonna set this aside for about half an hour, let those flavors meld. But of course you could throw it in the fridge for a couple hours. All right, on to the salmon. As I mentioned, it uses potato chips. Now the type of chips you use really do matter here. You don't wanna use anything too thin. You want a nice thick kettle chip or wood chip with those thick ridges so it has some structure. So you want 4 ounces of chips, and now you get to bash them into crumbs. Only one way to do this, and that's with a rolling pin. So you just put them in a plastic bag like this and get to rolling. It's like the bottom of the bag, you know, that you tip up into your mouth, but it's the entire bag is that texture. I know putting potato chips on fish might seem a little silly, but if you think about it, it's just cooked potatoes, and wrapping fish with thinly sliced potatoes is a classic French technique. We just sort of skipped the cooking of the potato part and went right to the chip. All right, you want them to be broken down into pretty even sizes, about the size of grape nuts. All right, that looks great. Into a big bowl they go. All right. Now to the chips, we're gonna add a cup of toasted breadcrumbs. Now I made these breadcrumbs myself, and it's about 3 pieces of bread with the crust taken off. You grind them up in the food processor, you throw them in a 400-degree oven for about 5 minutes, gets them nice and toasty. I actually save all my bread ends from the sandwich bread because my daughter and my husband don't love the bread ends. Grind them up, toast them, throw them in the freezer, and they're ready anytime. So it's one of those things I just always seem to have around. All right, now for the dill. Really helps freshen the topping up. You want a lot of it, about 6 tablespoons when it's all chopped up. Taking all the tough stems off. Just leaving those delicate frilly ends. Always got to gauge it before it's chopped, how much you're going to get. All right, let's give this a good chop. Now you want these pieces pretty fine. So you want them to really work into the topping. That's not hard with dill. Those fronds are so delicate, they chop up really quickly. I know it looked like a big pile of dill when I started, and it's getting smaller and smaller. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, a little generous on the 6 side, but not bad. A little extra dill's okay. All right, so into the bowl of crumbs they go. Oh, potato chips and dill. Yes. This topping tastes good on a lot of different things too, but on salmon, it is particularly spectacular. All right. So the topping is done. Got to set this aside. Give my hands a quick wash. All right, now for the salmon. Now this is kind of a showstopper. This is a whole side of salmon, about 3.5 pounds. The skin is still on. But the trick I've learned is sometimes the salmon can be long and narrow, sometimes it can be short and fat. But to get it to really fit on the baking sheet, the rimmed baking sheet, you want to go corner to corner. And this sling, you see that? It's a foil sling. That just makes it really easy to maneuver the salmon after it's cooked and it's on the more delicate side. So, onto the salmon, just a little bit of oil, about a teaspoon. I'm gonna brush that on nice and evenly. Make sure it gets nicely coated. Now we're gonna season the salmon with a good amount of salt and pepper. You can back off on the pepper if you're not a big fan of pepper, but man, I love it. All right, that looks good on the pepper. I know it's heavy on the pepper side, but I like that. You can season it as much or as little as you want with the pepper. I'm gonna use some salt. Oh yeah. All right, so the salmon is ready for the oven, and the trick is to cook the salmon on its own first and then add the breadcrumbs for the last few minutes. So to cook the salmon, we're gonna use the broiler. So we're gonna put this on a rack that's just 3 inches under the broiler element, which gives the salmon a huge blast of heat and cooks it really quickly. So the salmon's gonna cook only in about 10 minutes. All right, so when we come back, we're gonna add that potato chip and dill topping. Oh, that looks perfect. You can tell it's the perfect level of doneness because you can see the salmon is starting to flake away. So now is when we're gonna add the breadcrumb topping. Ziggy's picking up now. Smells some cooked salmon. All right, so you want about 3 tablespoons of Dijon. We're just gonna brush this evenly over the salmon, and this is gonna be the glue for the crumb topping. All right, you want that crumb topping to stick evenly all over the salmon, so make sure the Dijon is all over the salmon so that the crumbs can really stick. All right, that looks pretty well coated. Now for the crumbs. The best way to do this, I have found over the years, is just to use your hands to sprinkle them over the salmon and then press them on. All right, that looks pretty well coated. The last few right down the middle. I like a good crumb coating. All right, so this salmon is going back into the oven just for a minute, and I'm not gonna use that upper rack. I'm using a rack further down in the oven. That way the crumbs won't burn, but we're still using the broiler. So back in for just a minute. Oh, beautiful. You can see that nice halo of toasted crumbs on the top. Awesome. All right, so the trick of this recipe now is to get the salmon off the sheet pan onto a platter, but that's where that foil sling is gonna come in real handy. And believe it or not, the foil doesn't get hot, it stays pretty cool, it cools off pretty quickly. So using that, we can transfer the salmon right to the platter. Right, I'm gonna spin it around so the thick side of the salmon is facing me. All right, so using an offset spatula, I like to tear off the foil. This is gonna be sort of the landing edge, if you will. So you wanna take an offset spatula, just run it underneath the salmon, loosen it from the foil. Some of the skin I found of the salmon sticks to the foil, which is actually kind of nice, so that if that happens, no love lost there. All right, so holding the salmon in place with an offset spatula, I'm just gonna gently pull the foil out. I like to curl the foil up as I go, that way it doesn't make too big of a mess. You can see that salmon skin, a lot of it stuck to the back of the foil, which is lovely. And there you go, onto the platter. And I like the extra crumbs around. I think that just makes it look fun. Even them out a bit. And then, of course, some lemon wedges. Put it right on the platter. Just a fun way to serve salmon. Really casual with the potato chips, but really delicious. All right, so some lemons on the platter, zhuzhes things up a bit. Last but not least, a few sprigs of dill. I like putting the dill around not only because it's pretty, but it gives people a sense of what flavor they're in for. All right, and that is it. Time to eat. Here's the orzo salad. All right, so to serve this, I cut it right on the platter because you want to preserve as much of those crumbs as you can. Here, we'll put this up front. I'm using an offset spatula. Oh. Did you hear that sound? That sound is he running down the stairs just in time for dinner. Hi, buddy. He's a big fan of salmon. All right, little orzo salad. Oh, this is just such a good salad. A little more. All right, last but not least, a little white wine to go with the salmon. I have a nice Sancerre. So a Sancerre tastes great with salmon. Actually, it tastes great with everything. It's from the Sancerre region in the Loire Valley, and they're known for their Sauvignon Blanc, which is what this is. So when in doubt, if you're going to someone's house, bring a Sancerre. This is a perfect dinner. It is so easy to make, yet it's good enough for company. The leftovers actually taste delicious cold too. Let's get a little bit of salmon. You can see it's perfectly cooked. The crisp crumbs and that salmon with the pepper and the Dijon and all that fresh dill. It is such a good combination of flavors. Oh, that tastes good. The Sancerre with the salmon and the dill and that orzo salad. It is a perfect pairing. And to top off this meal, I'm going to show you how to make a fresh berry fool, which is a very silly name for a very elegant dessert.
Love what you're watching? Take your cooking to the next level with our Essential membership. Get instant access to thousands of recipes, tips, techniques, product reviews, and step-by-step videos. Our Members app allows you to search by ingredient, set dietary preferences, and save your favorite recipes. For those looking to level up, our newest feature, ATK Classes, offers more in-depth instruction led by ATK experts, so you can gain greater confidence in the kitchen. Start your free trial by visiting the App Store or going to americastestkitchen.com/YouTube today.
All right, it's time to make our berry fool, and today I'm using raspberries and strawberries, which are my favorite. Great during the summertime, good with this menu, but you can really make a fool with any kind of fruit that you want. All right, so here I have 6 ounces of raspberries, a pound of strawberries. Now, what we're gonna do is make a puree out of this fruit in the food processor. So I've washed all these berries, obviously, and I've been letting them drain on paper towels. You want to just remove the core of the strawberries. There's lots of different ways you can do this. They make little tools, which I actually own for my daughter. But my favorite way is to use a paring knife. You insert the paring knife right alongside of the stem, and then you just twist the berry. You can put your thumb on top and pop it out. There's just very little waste that way. All right, so all of these are going into the food processor. All right, now I'm going to use this paper towel as a sling. To the berries, I'm going to add half a cup of sugar. All right, and we're going to let it rip in the food processor for about a minute. You want just a very smooth puree. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to strain the puree. Try to get most of those seeds out. A few are okay, but all those seeds in the fool make it a little bit crunchy. So through a fine mesh strainer it goes. right into a liquid measuring cup. You want 2.5 cups of the puree. If you have any extra, you can use it in a cocktail, but I have to say, in all the years I've made this, I've never had any extra. I've always had exactly 2.5 cups, but you never know, the day might happen. So you notice I'm using a rubber spatula to really work the puree through the strainer. I'm basically scraping the rubber spatula along the bottom of the fine mesh strainer to really help force the puree through. And you can see what's left is a really thick puree with all those seeds. We're just preventing that from getting into the fool. All right, so that's about half of it. Let's get rid of these seeds and I can strain the other half. Here we go. If you notice, that blade isn't falling out. This is a trick. I'm using my middle finger through the hole in the bottom of the food processor to hold that blade in place so I can really scrape around the bowl and the sides without the blade falling out and making a mess. Little trick. All right, here we go. All right, that's the last of it. You can see nothing but seeds in there and a little of the thick pulp. Again, on the nose, 2.5 cups every time. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna thicken this puree with a little bit of gelatin. The best way to do that is to measure out about 1/2 cup of the puree. And we're gonna add the gelatin and just hydrate it. So that's 2 teaspoons of powdered gelatin. I'm gonna sprinkle it over the top, whisk it in. And now we're gonna take the rest of this puree. We're gonna heat it up on the stovetop, just bringing it to a simmer, and then we're gonna marry the two. That'll melt the gelatin, and then the whole mixture will thicken up nicely in the fridge. So that's about 2 cups of puree. We're gonna heat this on the stovetop. Takes about 5 minutes. All right, there it is. It's starting to bubble around the edges. That's how I know it's hot throughout. All right, you can see the steam, that's a good sign. And now it's time to add the gelatin. You can see this is already set up and is quite firm. So now by adding it to the hot puree, we're just gonna melt that gelatin so that it evenly thickens up the whole puree. All right, I'm just gonna stir it to really make sure all that gelatin gets nicely melted. Now I'm gonna put it into a nice clean bowl. Now we're gonna cover this with plastic wrap and let it sit in the fridge till it's nice and cool and firm. That can take at least 2 hours, but you can do it up to 4 hours in advance. All right, it's time to finish pulling together the components for our berry fool. And in the bowl, I have some strawberries and raspberries, 6 ounces of raspberries, a pound of strawberries. And I chopped the strawberries up, tossed them with the raspberries and 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I let them hang out for a while, let them macerate. That softens them, it gets some of the liquid out. And we're gonna use this in the fool, those solids, but you don't want all that juice. That juice will just make it really soggy. So that juice is delicious though, don't throw that out. Definitely use it as a mixer for seltzer or lemonade or something a little heavier. So we're gonna set those berries aside, let them drain when we make that whipped cream mixture. All right, so over here I have standing mixer, and this glass bowl has actually been chilled. That's just good rule of thumb. Whenever you're whipping cream, you get a little more loft out of your whipped cream if the bowl and the beater have been chilled. So to the bowl, I'm gonna add a cup of cream, heavy cream. Now we're gonna flavor this with a little bit of sour cream, just 1/4 cup. That tanginess is really lovely with the berries. So 1/4 cup of sour cream, a little bit of vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon. There we go. Last but not least, we're gonna add a little sugar, just 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we really want this mixture to get nice and fluffy. And the key to doing that is to use a couple different speeds. We're gonna start it out on low for about 30 seconds, loosen things up. Then we're gonna crank it up to medium, go another 30 seconds, and then go all the way to high. Final 30 seconds. By the end, this should have doubled in size. So here we go. All right, it's been on low, everything's nicely mixed. Now we're gonna crank it a little bit to medium. Another 30 seconds. All right, that is perfect. The whipped cream is nice and thick. You can see it's leaving a trail behind. Oh yeah, that's what you want. All right, I'm just gonna take a little bit of this out, about 1/3 cup. We're gonna set that aside so we can garnish the top of our fools with a little dollop of whipped cream, leaving the rest of it in the mixer. All right, so now let's take a look at this berry puree that we made earlier. It's been sitting up in the fridge. You can see it's pretty solid. We're gonna give this a quick whisk, loosen it back up. All right, oh, this looks good. It's nice and smooth, but still nicely chilled. Now I'm gonna take about 2/3 of this. We're gonna whip it into the whipped cream base. Mixer on low. That looks good. All right, it's not completely mixed in. I mean, it's mostly pink. There are a few streaks, and that's okay. I like the streaks. I think the streaks look cool. And actually, I'm gonna add the rest of the puree by hand so we can keep some of those streaks in there. So get some streaks of cream, some streaks of that pink mixture, and some streaks of the berry puree. All right, oh, that's perfect. You see all those streaks in there? That's exactly what you're looking for. All right, set this aside. So we have that, we have the whipped cream for the topping, we have the berries, and now the last little bit, these cookery crackery. That's what I'm gonna call it. Kind of cracker, they're kind of cookie, they're cookery. And this is the brand, Carr's Whole Wheat Crackers. They are delicious. They have a really unique flavor. Just gonna need about 4 of them. They're great on cheese boards because they straddle that line. Kids love them, adults love them. So we're gonna break them up into smallish pieces. You can just use your hands in a plastic bag. There's a lot of crushing in this menu, isn't there? Crushing the potato chips, crushing the crackers. It's a very fun menu. All right, and so these are gonna be the garnish on top of the fools, and man, do they taste good. All right, so I'm just gonna get this all cleaned up and we can assemble the fools. All right, time to assemble the fools, and I love using pretty parfait glasses. These ones were really inexpensive and I use them for all sorts of things. They just look very festive. First up, we're gonna add the berries to the glasses. Gonna leave a few berries behind, about 1/3 of the berries behind to make another layer. So about 2/3 of the berries evenly split between these glasses. Oh, and when you're eating it, you mix the berries up with the whipped cream and sour cream topping. It is so good. Next up, we're gonna put this filling on top. Oh, so good and streaky. Now we top with the rest of the berries. Just a few on each. A little dollop of our whipped cream mixture. Oh. Some of our cookery crumbs. Oh, some big pieces, some little fine dust. Now, you don't have to do this final bit of garnish, just a little bit of mint on top. No one's really gonna eat it, but sometimes it's nice to do, especially if this is for company, and I highly recommend that you make this for company because it'll knock everybody's socks off. And that is it. That is how you make a raspberry and strawberry fool. Don't mind if I do. Oh, you go all the way down to the bottom, you get a little of the crumbs, some of those berries. That's a big spoonful. Oh, that is so good. You taste the berries, you taste the whipped cream. It's not very sweet, just a little bit of sugar, with a little tang from the sour cream and those crunchy bits. Just a great way to finish this summery meal. See you next time.
If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?